Perfect. So now we are up and running, and let's quickly switch to Photoshop. And then before I start with the demonstration, I would like to show you that few of the people who have submitted the assignment, and we will just have a look at their work and then see um, what we can learn from that. Okay, so here we are on the stream, and I'm gonna go to the assignment, and I can see only 4 people have submitted the assignment so far. That is something, guys, I really do not appreciate, because we are supposed to stick to a timeline, and it was also not like very much which I have given you. It was just about editing couple of images, not even couple of images, just one image would have done the trick. So you can see for yourself that only 4 people have submitted it so far. Okay, so I'm gonna just open up Pranjali's first. See, the thing is, if you don't adhere to the timeline, it becomes really difficult for me to move up things. Now let's have a look at this image, and she has it's a similar situation what we tried yesterday. The top image is the original one, and it looks slightly disbalanced because the horizon is not parallel to the top edge or the bottom edge, and sort of throws the entire visual composition out of the balance, and gives us an uneasy feeling. And apart from that, we can also see there is a slight color casting, which is actually making the entire image very dull. The yellow also had some color cast. So the edited version, definitely in terms of colors it's better, and in terms of horizon it's slightly better than the top one, but still if you carefully observe, then you will see that still it has got a little tilt, a slight tilt, which sort of irritating to the to the viewer. You may not notice it like on the first go, but spend a little time and then you'll realize that this is something which is probably a little off. Okay, then again, but the photographer must be sitting on the boat, and in that case the boat, because it is in the mid river, mid of the water body, it may topple slightly a little bit, and it's an unstable surface. So that way this much of tilt can be justified in the composition. So I would say good work for this one. So I'm gonna type in a private comment, which is no more a private because I'm just streaming it online anyway. So I'm just showing you how you would find my comments in here. So I'm gonna post. Okay, so let's look at the second image which Pranjali has posted. So this one I really like the composition, and very minuscule amount of editing has been done here, and it's very smartly done also. If you look at the top image, let me zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna just pull this one here. Okay, maybe a little zoom out. Okay, now have a look that this image has this mark, some sort of bouquet sort of effect. Maybe some object was there at a very a distant object is there which got blurred because of the focus shift, and also we have couple of bouquet effect happening here, which is slightly distracting because the background is very very clean and pristine. It looks calm, and the color wise also sort of color casting maybe slightly underexposed, so the colors are not so vibrant, and the edited one looks quite good. If you compare it with the top one, it looks much refined, and this is actually good work. So yep, well done. Now let's have a look at the third image. Yeah, so in this maybe at the first go you wouldn't notice that there is much changed, but I can sense that some sort of curve adjustment has been done in this, and that's the reason why the highlights are looking more vibrant and the shadows are looking slightly thrown out of the focus areas. For example, if I look at this image, I can still figure out that there are some objects hidden in the background, and it's not contributing to the composition, and in return just pulling out undue attention, which is corrected. I think the blur could have been the field blur could have been utilized more effectively in this. I'm not sure whether you have done it or not. So you could have just put couple of fins here and thrown these entire background out of focus a little bit to grab more attention to the foreground. So you know do that next time you do that. So I'm gonna grade you also here, but no, I'm not gonna grade you right now. It's a personal thing, so I'll grade you privately. Now let's have a look at Atish work, and he has submitted 3 images as well. The first one is the original image which you see on the top, and the edit one, and I don't think there is much to talk about it. You can see the difference very clearly. This looks as if it was clicked from a camera which is old, and something went wrong with the entire thing. I wouldn't completely say that it's not a good image, but look at the edited version, and it's much refined. The best thing I liked about it is that you did not remove this completely, because it sort of completes the entire composition and balances the thing. If you just remove this thing here, the entire balance is going to shift on the left hand side, and just because this element is there which is not shouting out loud and crying for its identity in the composition, but still somehow balancing the entire uh, composition. So it's a good work, and color wise also, yeah, it's good, it's good. So let's go to the next one. Self-explanatory. Look at this image on the left and look at the right hand side. The fog, sort of the smoky feel we have here, is completely gone because of curves adjustment, I believe, and the color is also looking much better than the original one. So good editing once again. And then yeah, so this one is the original and this one is the edited one. I believe whichever camera these images were clicked from has some issue of white balance, so you got to look for the white balance thing. Essentially what white balance is, that when you start noticing a color casting on your images very often, and you will see that a dominant color is overtaking the white regions, and then some impression of the dominant color is found on the white areas. And what happens in that case is that you would find the images look very smoky, as if it has shot through a mist of white cloud. So this is, I have noticed in all 3 of the images. But in the post processing you took care of it very well, so good work. Okay, now I'll just quickly have a look at Shreya's work, and then we can move with the demonstration. After and before, she has not put it on one single page, but that's all right for now, I think. Okay, so this image, we already talked a lot about this image, so there's hardly much to say about this. Then I think she has presented the comparison here. Okay, we can see, and then I don't know what's here. Oh, okay, it's the PSD file. Oh, the beauty of the platform we are working with is that it can show you the the preview of PSD file also, which I really appreciate. Now let's just close this. So let's just quickly have a look at Pratna's work as well. Yeah, it's a good image. So it says original one. Yeah, I'm really curious that what she has done in the editing. Let's have a look. Hardly any difference you would notice, and basically you have to match them side by side in order to realize and probably this PSB file which you have posted, Look at the extension here. You have posted a PSB file, which is probably you have went inside the smart object. I'll show you what a PSD file is. Otherwise, you can always go and check on the smart object video. There I'm talking about the PSB file. The PSB file cannot be previewed inside a browser. Um, so anyway, so let's just start with the demonstration today. And those 14 people, the list is here. You have to submit it by the end of the day, plus the assignment which I'm going to give you after the demonstration board. So do not, let the due time pass. Now I'll just quickly see if you guys are typing anything. No. So you can, I really encourage you guys to type in all your comments, your queries. Just list this down here. Anything which you want to learn, anything which you want me to cover, just put it there so that I know that what I should add in the demonstration. So let's go back to it, and I have my Photoshop open here, and I have opened a new file, and this is just to set up the things. I'm gonna start with a new file, and I'm gonna go for the print version of the files, and I'm gonna work on A4 size now. So create, and the first thing is that I want the orientation to change, and once you have defined it, you can do that by going to edit menu, image menu, and choose image rotation, and then you can choose either of these two options. Well, so I want you to look at a few techniques which can be utilized for color correction. So primarily the topic will be about color correction in the first half of the demonstration, and in the second half of the demonstration we will talk about optimizing the image. So these two things I'm going to cover today. Now when I say color correction, yesterday what we did, it was bringing the focus on the subject and isolating the subject from the unwanted objects surrounding it or the background. That was the objective yesterday, and today it's about color correction and a little bit of zonal corrections. When I say zonal corrections, then I mean some artifacts which you want to remove, which we also did by removing that unwanted string of wire in couple of images. So let's see what I mean when I say color correction. So I'm gonna go back to the folder where I have your images saved. So I have it inside the photography folder and inside the demo folder. So these were the images I started with yesterday. I'm gonna pick this one because it has a lot of colors to work with, and the first thing I'm gonna do here is make it fit to the screen. Well, let me just import it once again. Okay, I'm gonna hold Alt and then drag so that it fills up the entire screen. A little bit of cropping is happening on the top and bottom, which is fine. I don't need to tilt this image. What I want to do in this is first make a copy of this image and then press Ctrl Shift L. The moment I did it, I can see that it is sort of getting back to the original colors when the image was shot, and all the casting is removed. Now when it means color correction, so basically what I want in this case is I want the blue to be a little more vivid, all the colors to be a little vivid. If I hide this, I see that the dominance of red is there, it's present in the entire canvas, but it is sort of throwing other colors which could have really made this composition very interesting dull. So that's the reason I did auto level, auto tone. So you can do the same by hitting Ctrl Shift L on the keyboard, and I would always encourage, so first thing you do when you start editing any image after importing it in Photoshop, you try out Ctrl Shift L and then see Ctrl Shift L, Ctrl Shift B, couple of these shortcuts you should try, and it will immediately, many times gives you the result, and you can just simply tweak it up a little further, uh, and then call it a day. So that's my habit. I think this worked out really good for me. Now, so I was talking about how I can boost up this uh, selective colors basically here. So I can apply a filter of hue saturation on top of it. That would be an adjustment layer. So if I click on hue saturation, it's gonna get you a layer on top of it, which is going to affect all the layers beneath it. Pay very close attention to what I'm about to do here. I'm going to clip this layer with this one so that it only affects this. How do we know that a particular layer is clipped? You know it because the name of the layer is going to get underlined, and then you also notice this drop sign here, the drop arrow sign, which tells you that this particular effect is only going to affect the layer which is associated with it. Okay, now if I do a hue saturation adjustment here, yesterday, I think day before yesterday we did that. We use this hand tool here, and I'm gonna click on this, and I have two options. If I click on this and then drag, you see the saturation is boosting first thing, so I can change the saturation. And let's say that the color is I also want to play around with the hue a little, so I can hold control. Once the saturation, I'm sure about the saturation, I can leave it, and then I can hold control and then click on it, and it's gonna let me change the saturation of it. Obviously I don't want to go towards the green zone. I would go towards magenta more. Look at the sliders as it changes, and then I would settle somewhere around here. Okay, now let's go for this red one. So I'm gonna click here, and the first thing I want to saturate it a little. Okay, and then I'm gonna control click on, then just check whether the hue is going to make much difference in this or not. So on the right hand side it's turning into yellow, which I don't want. I want it to be more red, so I'm gonna push it towards left a little, but again I think the original one made more sense, so I'm just gonna leave it like this. Now here I'm doing hue shift. Boosting up that particular color is a different thing, and that could be achieved by using selective color, and which we will do after this. So I'm just gonna quickly go here in the dark areas and then just pull it towards right. Now see, it's drastically changing the image. I'm just showing you what happens when you boost up the saturation like crazy. This is not what we want. So I'm gonna say Control Z. Now color wise, let's just try out few things. I want this red to become slightly more saturated. Yeah, okay. Now I think color wise we are doing good. Now let's address this one also. Saturate it a little more. Perfect. So I have selectively saturated things here, and I can do it for the entire image as well, just by going to the slider and then pulling it on the right hand side or the down. But notice as I do so, it's only affecting this one because hand tool is active. I'm gonna say Control Z a couple of times. Yeah, and then let's pull it down a little. Yeah, okay. Now so you need to just deactivate the hand tool, and then if you pull the saturation slider up and down, okay, it actually defines a range here, and if the range is defined, it is only going to affect that particular range. So you can increase the range by dragging all the way and then try. Now in this case you see the entire all the colors are getting affected. I don't want to do this. The selective adjustment is working for me quite good. Now the next thing I want to do here is that I'm gonna collapse this and add a selective color adjustment on top. So let's go for selective color on top of it, and then again do not forget to clip it to the below layer, otherwise when you switch off this group, it is also going to affect this. So I'm going to clip again, Alt, and then just click on this in between these two layers. The color red is selected right now, and I want to boost up the red. Okay, let's boost up the black in red a little, just a little. I might be overdoing things for the sake of demonstration so that the difference can be obvious, which you should not be doing while you edit your images. So let's target the cyan channel and have a look at it. How is it affecting the image? Look at the top region where we have cyan, dominance of cyan, and also the reflection in the water. So okay, this looks quite good to me. I'm just going to close this. Now sometimes what happens that after these adjustments, if let's just hide this and then check, not much has changed. So don't worry, even that slight addition you managed to do with this is going to add a lot of value in the resultant output. So do try out these things: hue, saturation, selective color adjustment. Now on top of that, I'm gonna do a levels adjustment, and I want you to understand these levels. So basically levels and curves are very much same, and we are doing a very I would say preliminary course in photo editing for now, because we don't have much time. So I'm not gonna go into the full details of levels and curves, but however I want you to notice few things. Now here, look at this entire levels panel, and before I proceed, first thing I'm gonna do is clip this levels with the layer below. Now the thing which you see here is known as histogram. Now histogram is basically a bar graph mapped as per the values or the data present. In this case, we are talking about the data of the values. Values, when I say values, that means a particular value on a scale of white to black. So in between that gradient, you pick a point, and that is considered a value. So having said that, notice here we have two controls here. The first one lets me control, now this left hand side slider controls the amount of dark areas we have, and if I pull it towards the midtone, so this is dark areas, this is midtone, and this is highlights. So if I pull the midtones towards dark area, so basically I am increasing more highlights in the image. The highlight become more and the dark regions become less. If I am pulling the midtones toward the right hand side, then what I'm doing, I'm reducing the highlight and increasing the dark areas in the image. Okay, so I'm gonna just pull it down back to somewhere close to where it was earlier. The default value is 1, and I want this image to be slightly darker than what it is, so I'm gonna pull the midtone towards highlights just a little bit, okay. Now pulling the midtones towards highlight ensures that we have more dark regions. But what about the highlights itself? Because we need to reduce the amount of highlights as well, so for doing that, you have to pull the dark areas and let it seep into the midtones slightly more. So I'm gonna pull this towards right a little. Now the next thing is controlling the white areas. Now sometimes it says output level basically, and output level is if it is getting too much of detail, just let me know in the comment section and I'll keep simple things. So but the thing is, the people usually think that Photoshop is all about moving sliders from here and there and watching it happen in the screen and then deciding what works best. Yeah, it is very much like that only, but before you pull any of the sliders in any of the programs, you must know what that slider is actually doing. So a lot of time you will see people fiddling around with the settings, but they don't have a clue that what is going to happen on the screen, and they only settle which we see in the, which they see on the screen, and then say, okay, it is working for me. But try and understand why that slider is there. Now right now you'll know in the levels panel that this represents the dark areas, this is for midtone, and this is for highlight, and we can change these areas and accordingly the image will also behave. if I wanted to go into the details, then I would have separated these levels based on channels, which I can do, but I just worked on RGB composite channel. You could also do the same with red, green and blue, but since you guys are not familiar with the color profile and color families and how it is being separated in channels, uh, so yeah, I would just skip that part. Now uh, another cool trick is that you can hold alt and then click on this, and that tells you exactly the areas where the dark areas are, and whether those are clipping or not. So this is a cool trick to see at least where the dark areas are and where it is going to affect it most. You can do the same for the you can hold alt and then click on this slider also. See, of course the midtones are very less, so it's not showing anything, it's not clipping. The midtones usually do not clip, but these parts, the moment I pull, you see these parts are getting some clipping happening. Okay, on the output level, so basically this defines the black, the value of black. So if I want the black not to be black but slightly less dark gray, so I can just pull this output and you see the black started turning into dark gray. Yeah, and thus removing the contrast from the composition. So this can also be done, and I really don't want this harsh black here, so maybe I'll set the output to 4. Even this small value does help. Maybe not in screen it is so visible, but in printing it would be very obvious. And the whites, let's see if I want the whites to be more gray. Okay, I don't want this much of brightness here in the white regions, because the entire mood of the image demands for some dullness in the white regions, or white not to be completely white in case. So I'm gonna reduce it down. Okay, now after doing these 3 adjustments, let's just quickly group all of these together, Control G, and then hide this and then see how much it affected the image. So this is what we started with after the auto color correction, and after these adjustments this is what we have. Now if you compare like the collective output of it, then it makes a lot of difference. Okay, so another adjustment I want you guys to see is curves. So what we did in the levels here is represented in a different way in curves, and it's something which is really important. And if you guys want me to cover curves in full detail, I can make a video and post it. In fact, for all the panels I can make separate videos and we can discuss it in full details, but not in the module. Post the module, and for that you have to keep on looking back at the channel. Okay, now the way I showed you that the dark point was in the levels on the far left hand side, in the curves the dark point is the values, and you can see it in the sliders also. These sliders actually denote the dark point and the highlight point, and in the middle we have the midtones, and the histogram shows how much of dark areas do we have, how much of highlights do we have, how much of highlights do we have and how much of midtones we have. Okay, and you can see the graph is rising towards the midtone, so we have more of midtones, more of highlights and less of dark areas, which is very evident after looking at the image. So usually why I use curve for targeting the midtones and then pushing it up for making the image either brighter or pulling it down. So in this case I'm gonna pull it slightly down because that's the kind of mood I'm going for. But while pulling it down, I see that the highlight is not corresponding to the mood, so I'm gonna pull the highlight also down slightly. Yeah, okay, now this works for me. Then again, there is way many things in curves which I can cover right now in this video. Just the curves panel would take at least 1 hour to explain, because it can also separate things in channels, and there are these set of tools which I would want you guys to explore. And in case if you face any issues or difficulties, do let me know in the comment section, and in the next class I'm gonna take those. So I forgot to clip this one, so let's just quickly clip this. Oh, I think no need to clip because this is part of the group. We just need to clip this entire group to this image, which I don't think we can do. So we got to ungroup it. So Control Shift G is the key shortcut for ungrouping it, and then you can hold Alt and see multiple layers can also be clipped at once if they are selected together. Okay, I just, you just have to like 4 times click it. Otherwise you could have converted all of it into a smart object and then clipped it. I never tried it, but I think that will work. So do try and then let me know. Okay. So this is the resultant of what we have done, and I'm going to group all of this and then hide it and then show this is the image and this is what we managed to get. Now this image looks nice, fine, but the casting somewhat, it takes us away from the originality, and when I look at it, it looks real, dramatic, not real but dramatic, of course dramatic. Okay, so this was about how we can color correct our images. Okay, and the next thing is, how do I export it for our usage? So now, for example, once you have posted your images in the assignment, so how did you decide that this size would be sufficient enough for submitting it into the assignment? Because our purpose was to just showcase it on a web page. So this is, I'm considering this is a web page, the stream is a web page. We are not going to take a printout of it. So I'm going to show you how you prepare this image for printout, or depending upon how big you want this to be. And the next thing is, if I want to publish it on a social media platform, or if I want to publish it on a web page, what should I do? How should I export? Because if you are gonna post it on a web page and the size of the image is 4 MB, 5 MB, then it is going to get a lot of time to, it is going to take a lot of time to get loaded into the browser, and which in result is going to not support the user experience, or will not be good for the user experience. So optimizing the image is the next topic for today, and I want you guys to exactly follow this. And next time you submit things, you have to submit a print version and an optimized version also. Let me just quickly have a look at the comments. Okay, people are still saying good morning, hello. Okay, hello everyone, I hope you are following along. Okay, so let's get back to this. Now I'm gonna quickly check the image size, and that I can do by holding Control Alt and I on the keyboard. So Control Alt I shows me the size, and the size I went ahead before working with this document was A4, and it's showing me the dimension of A4 and the resolution of A4. So if I intend to print it, I'm gonna simply export it like this. Control Shift S is the shortcut. Otherwise you can go to File menu and choose Save As, and I'm going to create a new folder by the name Image Optimization, and inside that I'm gonna make let's not make a folder, I'll just be renaming the files and say that this is for print. So I'm gonna say print, change this format to JPEG, and then save. Now while saving, I get this small dialog box which is asking me for the quality, and by default it would be set to medium in most of the cases. So we have a tendency of pulling it all the way to the 12 in most of the cases, without understanding what these are, what is baseline standard means, what does baseline optimized and progressive mean. So basically if you are posting it for printing, so you should go for baseline standard, which ensures that maximum details are preserved in the files. The file size might be a little larger than compared to these. Then again, the progressive, I think we had a discussion about it in class with somebody. I'll tell you the best thing to do. you just choose baseline standard for printing and boost it up all the way to the 12 and then say okay. And now if I want to publish it on web, let's say that next time I want you to publish your assignments on the Google Stream, what you do once you are done with it, now you say Control Shift Alt S. Remember all the modifier keys, Control Alt Shift and then S together. And if you don't, then this Shift for Web dialog box is gonna pop up, and this is a really nice feature of Photoshop which enables us to save our images for websites or web publications. So basically there are so many options. You can look at the original, optimize 2 up, 4 up, and compare between two different versions of the image, the optimized one and the original one. You can pick different profiles from here and then do a 4 of comparison also, and there are slice tools also. But then again, going into the details is not possible in here. Right now I cannot see the entire image at once here. So what I'll do, Control 0 on the keyboard is gonna fit it to the screen. Okay, Control 0, and then here we are looking for the presets. Now if I'm posting it on the internet, the profile I should go is PNG24 ideally, but the file size is going to increase. If I save it as PNG24, let me save it as PNG24. There is another format available, PNG8. There is a difference between PNG8 and 24, and that is something which you can just look for on internet. I can tell you it has color restrictions. So PNG24 has a larger gamut of color, and PNG8 does not support a wide spectrum of colors compared to PNG24. Both supports transparency, by the way, and both is a lossless compression algorithm. Anyway, just do your research and then try to find out more about it. And given that the transparency is selected, it is going to find out the matte and either keep the transparency or remove the transparency. Now the image size, look at here, the image size is 3508 pixels wide. The screen resolution we usually have is not more than 920. So anything more than that is a waste of pixel data. Not a waste actually, because it allows you to zoom in a little bit and go up close to the things. But since my purpose is just to view it on the screen and appreciate the composition, I'm just gonna pull it down to somewhere around 2000. Not precisely 1920, but 2000 will also work in this case. And then save this image. And I'm gonna save this in the same folder inside demo, inside image optimization, and I'm gonna call it for web and then say save. So I did a PNG export of this image, and I'm going to again export it as for web. Again the same shortcut, Control Shift and S. It takes a while to process things. It's optimizing the image indeed. Okay, and I'm gonna say Control 0 to fit it to the screen, and this time instead of PNG24 I'll choose JPEG, because JPEG is also profile which is highly supported by internet, and I have options, a lot of options to play with in JPEG. So I can go for high, maximum, very high. So I'm gonna settle with high. Now depending upon what is the subject in the image, actually in this you don't have a lot of objective detail in the image. So it's just about a landscape, a beautiful ambience, and usually the people are not going to zoom into it and then try to find out or count the rocks or number of people, because there are no people in fact. So people are not worried about the detail in terms the objective details in this case, but they are just gonna experience this. Now I'm not saying deteriorate the quality very much, but I think I can go fairly well even with the very high quality here, and I would choose optimized and then save this image. But before, I just want 2000 pixels horizontal. Automatically it's going to change the height also, given that this width and height ratio is linked together. I'm gonna save this and then call it web optimized and then save. Now since we have saved all three of the versions, let's go inside the folder and then check it quickly. Now here I want you to pay attention. If I double click on this, open it up, now this is the web version. I'm going to move to the next image by clicking on next, and I want you to notice how much it actually changed. Can you figure out the change? Look at the top left corner, it says photo. This is for print. If I go to the left, this is for web, the PNG file. And if I go right once more, then I have the web optimized. And not, the change is not even noticeable at this zoom level. But what happens if I increase the zoom? So in the web optimized version, if I increase the zoom, till the time it reaches 2000 pixels, mine screen resolution, I'll show you the screen resolution, is 1920 by 1080. So that means I have 1920 pixels horizontally and 1080 pixels vertically. And when I zoom it beyond that point, then the image is going to get deteriorated. So till the time it is adapting to the full width of the screen, it is fine. And the moment, okay, I need to, sorry, this is the print version. So yeah, the web optimized version, and till this point it will be fine. The moment I go farther away than this, then it will start pixelating. However, it is not deteriorating so much also, so it will work fine for the web. Now the thing is, you must be wondering, sir, what is the logic if it takes more or less same amount of time in exporting these three files? So the logic is that look at the file sizes. So I'm gonna right click on it and then view the details of these images and look at the file sizes. The print version's file size is the most, where we did not do any optimization, so it's coming like 3 MB. For web, which we have the PNG file, it's lesser than that, 2 MB, and the web optimized version is 500 KB. So 6 times lesser than the print and 4 times lesser than the web. Now this ratio might differ depending upon what do you have actually in the image, but this is really a life-saving thing. Okay, when I say life-saving, I mean for the internet. So do make a habit of understanding the purpose, why are you exporting the image, and then try to optimize the image for that. Okay, so next time if I tell you to submit your assignment here in the stream, ensure, because I'm asking it for the web viewing purposes and I'll be checking probably on a mobile devices, so I don't want a file size which is very huge. Okay, all right, so yeah, so that would be all. So I'm just going to recap what we did quickly. We have started with this image, color corrected it. I have used 4 color correction methods here. The first one was hue saturation for targeting the hue and the saturation of selective colors. Then I went for selective color and then picked out the colors which I wanted to be more vibrant and then targeted those channel based. And then I have moved to levels for controlling the values inside the image, and when I say value, then I mean the color value plotted on the black to white gradient. Okay, and then I move to curves, which is very much similar to levels but has a different plotting mechanism. It lets me just adjust the curve and do things in respect. The highlights, the midtones and the shadow is plotted on a curve, and if you manipulate the curve you see the result in the image. We did talk about the things which we should consider while editing the images. Okay, and we saw how effectively we can do that. So once again a quick comparison, the original one and the final one. So that would be all from my side, and your assignment is to do take any image. Either you take any existing image, that is also fine, or it would be better if you work with your own clicked photograph. So you have a phone camera, you can click it inside the house, or just go on the rooftop, or outside the window. Do not go outside the house because it's a lockdown, but be creative, click a nice photograph, and then try to do the color correction, make it more dramatic, maybe more fantasy oriented. Pick a theme, keep something in mind. Do you want it to be magical? Do you want to be more real? Do you want to be dull? Do you want to be nostalgic? So you got to pick up a theme. Do you want to be more vibrant, colorful, joyful, sad, nostalgic? So you got to pick up a keyword, and then sort of try to achieve that feeling by changing the uh, settings in Photoshop. Do proper color correction and post your results on the next assignment, which I'm going to post once you are done with this. So you are going to get the next assignment around 2 o'clock, and I want you to submit that assignment before tomorrow's session, so that we can talk about that as well. Also, the assignment was of 20 marks. Those who have submitted late, this is the first time, so I'm giving you a leeway. Submit it before 3 o'clock today, and I won't cut any marks. Okay, having said that, have a good day, enjoy, eat good, do exercise, and be safe inside your house. Do not go out. Thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow, same time, 11:30.